So, good morning, everybody here in Helsinki, in this wonderful place, in the City Hall, the lobby, where we are organizing our workshop, Read Well workshop, which is part of this International Social Housing Festival. So we are very glad to be here and happy to have the opportunity to share with you the work we are doing in this Marie Curie Innovation Training Network, which is what is Read Well, about the topic of delivering sustainable and affordable housing in Europe. This is our topic. This is a project that started to run, actually, the actual work in July last year. So we are in the first year of the project. We have 3 more years to go to finalize all of this training. So I will give an introduction to the Read Well network. What is the purpose? What is the approach that we are following? Also, who are the participants? And then I will give the word to my colleagues, and particularly to the early stage researchers who are going to take care of the workshop, who have organized this workshop, and will run the workshop in the rest of the morning. My name is Leandro Madrazo. I'm the project coordinator of this network. I'm a professor at the School of Architecture at Salle in the Ramon Llull University in Barcelona in Spain. So what are the challenges of affordable and sustainable housing? Actually, the big topic of this event. I found this recent document, an informal conference from the ministers in Nice in March this year, which in a way summarizes very well what we try to do in this network. So in this document, you can read sentences like this. The housing and construction sectors are key to deliver on the climate objectives set in the European Green Deal. This is the framework where we have to operate in the next decades in order to achieve these sustainable goals that the European Commission has established for Europe. So our project and our topic, affordable and sustainable housing, actually fits very well into the new framework of the European directives. So also from this document, the sectors of housing and construction are at the crossroads of policies dealing with many different domains, with environment, with climate, with urban and territorial development, cohesion. So all of the kind of issues are involved in housing affordable and sustainable. Providing homes of good quality, and here the word quality is also very important for our research, and also it's important now for the policies of the European Union. Quality and high quality living environments, not only providing housing, not only affordable housing, not only sustainable housing, but quality housing. Whatever that means has to be defined, what quality means. And also integrated into the urban development, not housing as isolated objects, but housing integrated into the whole sustainable development of cities, the urban development. And also increasing the affordability, but without forgetting the providing new and renovated quality housing. Not only new housing, but also renovation, as you know, is a very important goal of the renovation wave in the new European framework. And finally, all of these words that in a way summarize what we try to do here with our holistic approach towards affordable and sustainable housing. They talk here about affordable, well-connected, decent, energy efficient, decarbonized, sustainably designed, accessible, and resilient housing situated in socially mixed neighborhoods. So everything together. How do we deal with all of this complexity? This is the challenge we have in this network, and also not only how do we deal from a conceptual point of view, but who are going to be the experts dealing with all of this complexity. This is our concern here as an innovative training network in the Marie Curie program. So what we wrote already 3 years ago in our proposal, it's very much aligned with these directions that now we read in the official directives in the documents from the European Union. What we wrote in our proposal in 2019 was that affordable and sustainable housing needs to be approached from a transdisciplinary perspective, involving multiple domains and disciplines, experts and non-experts. We also wrote that affordability and sustainability have been dealt as separate areas, and we have to deal with them at the same time. They are complementary, they are not opposite. They don't exclude each other. So affordability and sustainability have to be treated together, which means that we have to deal with architecture and planning, with economics, with sociology, and also across different realms, policy making, sustainable development, urban planning, and so on. So what is the purpose of Read Well in this context? Actually, to train these future professionals able to work in these complex environments across different fields, from a particular disciplinary perspective, but also reaching out other disciplines and other domains. This is our goal. In this document also, already from 2004, the EGAN review, Skills for Sustainable Communities, 18 years ago. You can still you can read things that are still valid nowadays. What kind of professionals we need to form to address this complexity of sustainable development? In this report, you can read that the ability to create a vision, a leadership to achieve communication, team working, project management, process reengineering, also to understand sustainable development and the financial aspects involved and the economics of the development. So not only it's about design, not only about architecture, not only about planning, also we have to deal with sociological issues, with economic issues. So now going to the network and who are behind this network, we are a consortium of 22 organizations. 10 of them are academic beneficiaries, universities, and 12 are partner organizations coming from professional field, local administrations, housing associations, and so on. Altogether, we represent 9 European countries, which are here listed, and we are covering the academic beneficiaries, covering all of these fields: architecture, economics, urban planning, sociology, and social policy. So the partner organizations are here listed, and there are 12 of them, and they are covering all of these topics. Social organizations, they have all of these different profiles. There are social organizations, there are housing associations, there are public and private housing developers, there are also construction companies, and local administrations. In these partner organizations, our early stage researchers carry out the secondments, stages that complement their academic education and training. So the early stage researchers that were selected through a competitive process in the first year of the network are these 15 coming from 10 countries. You will meet 7 of them today in the workshop. So now let's talk about what is our conceptual approach, what is the framework that we try to build in this network in order to approach from a transdisciplinary perspective the problem of affordable and sustainable housing. This diagram was in our proposal, so it's still the same one as we put in 2019, still valid, and it's still the roadmap for our research. So we were thinking that we should address 3 big research areas interrelated: design, planning, and building, community participation, and policy and financing. Each one of these areas encompasses different topics that they might come into relationship when we deal and approach sustainable and affordable housing from a holistic point of view. In between, in the intersections, are the individual research projects, the 15 projects that are being carried out and that hopefully will end up in a PhD dissertation at the end of this program. So the connections between the 3 different areas, this is what we are actually building in the activities we are doing. And indeed, what we are going to do here today is another exercise in this time with you to build these connections between the different areas, as the early stage researchers will explain later when they introduce the workshop. So the 15 projects that were part of the proposal are here listed, and they are dealing with a whole range of issues which cover all the complexity of the problem: urban regeneration and building renovation, housing policies to support innovation in housing, co-creation and co-design for neighborhoods and living, industrialized construction and digital technologies, post-occupancy evaluation and housing quality, and sustainable housing design and construction. All of these topics are spread across these 15 different projects and are being now developed by the researchers. But more important than the individual projects are the connections between the different projects. These connections have to be built upon through the project, through the different activities, through the workshops, through the reviews, through the collaborative activities that we do during the network. And these connections are really the difficult things to formulate and also to answer. This is a small example of connectivity between 3 different individual research projects. When we are discussing, for example, that in the last decades, we have seen a general dismantling of post-war social housing policies in Europe. Financialization and gentrification are symptoms of the commodification of the housing sector. And nationally framed housing regimes may not be the best tool to face current challenges. Then we have a research question that cuts across different research projects. To what extent can local regimes guide private urban development to provide affordable housing? Similar questions now relating other projects. Also a cross-cutting issue today is the participation of community members is key to achieving sustainable living environments as well as affordable housing. How do community-driven local governance influences land ownership and housing production? And how can the challenges of affordable and sustainable housing be addressed through co-creation practices? These are also research questions that do not provide a single answer from a particular realm or discipline, but needs multiple viewpoints and multiple actors. So how do we build that in the network? We have, just to remember that Marie Curie is an innovative training network, so we have to really innovate in the training, and that's what we try to do also. So we provide the different tools and different mechanisms for researchers to interact, to bring together the knowledge they are generated in the different dissertations or research projects. And two of these mechanisms that we created and we are implementing is the shared vocabulary and the library of case studies. So the vocabulary that is on the web is just terms that are related to the issue of affordable and sustainable housing that are defined by the researchers. They are coming from their own reflections, from their own readings, from their own individual work, and they share that with all the other researchers. So this is a knowledge construction collaboratively done, which helps to build these links, these lines that I was mentioning before. The other one is the case study library, where they are selecting relevant examples of affordable and sustainable housing that illustrate this holistic approach that we are interested to understand. How all of this vocabulary and case studies relate to the individual projects. The process we are following is here described. So each individual project is generating certain kind of knowledge, and the researcher is just distilling this knowledge into the vocabulary, providing these terms with references and definitions. These terms, each one of them is related to one of the three major research areas of the project: design, planning and building, community participation, and policy and financing. And then the case study library is also connected to the vocabulary, because when you have a term, this term can be attached to one particular example. So as you can see here in this diagram, the vocabulary is the nexus, the link in between the individual research projects and the case study library. And at the same time, the vocabulary is connecting the three major research areas. So therefore, the vocabulary plays a key role here in the construction of this knowledge base. Besides that, we have created a blog for ESRs to freely express their ideas, their reflections on the different activities on the network, on the secondments, in conferences that they are using, and there are already quite a few of these reflections here in our blog. Intertwining research and training activities is also a very important part of this innovation that we are carrying out in this project. And we have to fulfill parallel goals at the same time, which sometimes is not easy. So on the bottom line, there is the research projects that are the individual work that is done by each researcher. But then we have, on the middle layer, we have the network-wide activities, which are the workshops, the summer schools, the conferences. And then on top, we have the training courses, which are basically these two here: research methods and tools, and transferable skills, which are done in 3 modules. So all of that has to evolve over time in a coordinated manner, so in a way that everything runs and grows in parallel, and that's not, for sure, an easy task. That's what we are already doing since 1 year, and this is an example of how we integrate a course with our network-wide activities. For example, this Research Methods and Tools course, RMT1, started in July last year, and started with an online session. Then we did online activities until we meet in Lisbon. We met in Lisbon in September last year. Then we did face-to-face training sessions in Lisbon. Then the online work continued. Then we met again in the summer school in Nicosia in November, and the course was concluded in a session there. What kind of activities are done during this kind of blended learning environment? This is an example of it in this course. There was a reading of an essay before the meeting in Nicosia. The researchers were reading, peer reviewing the text, the essay from another peer. And then in Nicosia, we just make a final review and then draw the connections between the different topics and the different research projects. And the result was this diagram here that is shared by everybody. So network activities, we do workshops, summer schools, and conferences. And in these meetings, we do collaborative activities, we do group discussions, lectures, meetings with local actors, site visits, and roundtables. This was in Lisbon, this was in Budapest in March, this was in Nicosia, the summer school in November, and the next summer school will be in Valencia in July. In these events, we also organize a series of roundtables, which is becoming one of the consolidated lines of reflection and dissemination of the project. We are inviting colleagues, experts, not only from academia, but also from other fields involved in the issue of affordable and sustainable housing. And we have discussions with them. Until now has been everything online. Hopefully we'll have also some blended ones in the future. So 3 roundtables are already available in our website. And we'll have our first renewal conference. There are 2 planned in the project. The first one will be in December in Grenoble, organized by our colleagues from the Université Alpes Grenoble. And the call of abstracts, if somebody here is interested, we are very looking forward getting abstracts here for this conference. So you are interested in the topic, you want to meet us, you have until the 24th of June to submit an abstract and hopefully to continue following our activities and meet again with us in Grenoble. So finally, you can follow us in all of these channels and write to us if you have any questions. And now, passing now to the workshop itself. The title of the workshop is a Holistic Approach for Affordable and Sustainable Housing, a Use Case. And indeed, what they will explain that later. I will not be the spoiler here. So they will explain later what is it. I will just introduce the members that are here from the network. We have 7 of the 15 researchers. Annette, Saskia, Zoe, Tain, Androniki, Carolina, and Leonardo are here. You will interact with them during the session. And we also have some colleagues. Carla from Valencia, Ignacio also from Valencia, Alexandra from Lisbon, Flora, and Eleanor from the UK, and Alice, who is everywhere here because she's one of the organizers of the event in Housing Europe. So now I give the floor to my colleague Carla. She will introduce the digital exhibition that we finally decided to do it here in a digital format.
Yes. Okay, hello, and it's nice to see you here. And now what we are going to see is the exhibition. Bueno, just to explain what we have done, there is an exhibition with all this information that Leandro has presented. And what we wanted to do with this exhibition was to put all together the presentation that Leandro has done. In the first 2 panels that are here is the resume about what he has been talking about. And as you can see, there is 3 parts in these panels. In the first part, in the up part, there is the research that each ESR are doing. So it's the theme that they are working on. In the middle is the collaborative activities with the workshops, conferences, summer school, roundtables, all that allows us to put in common all the things that we are working on. And in the down part here, the lower one, there is the case studies, vocabulary, is like the outputs, the way we put in common all the information that we are developing. So it is scrolling, so at this time there are the 3 of them, the 2, 3, 4, but you can see one resume about the research and one small diagram, and all the information is here. And you have the QR where you can go to each of them, each research, and it will be here moving after the workshop. So now I'm going to give the place to Annette. She's going to explain what we are going to do. It's going to be more or less what we have been doing. We have been working, or we are going to be working during 3 years, sharing these 3 areas, main areas, and now you are going to do the same, but in a very short period of time. That is going to be almost 2 hours. So Annette.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, welcome again, and to our workshop. And we are Readwell, and this workshop is titled "A Holistic Approach for Affordable and Sustainable Housing: A Use Case." And as Leandro explained, we are 15 researchers, and there are 7 of us here in Helsinki. So the aim of this workshop is to understand a proposed scenario that we'll be proposing and explaining in the next few slides on these 3 perspectives. So community participation, design planning and building, and policy and finance. And importantly, how these are interlinked. So these are 3 separate areas, but it's important that these concepts are connected to each other, and so that we discuss holistic housing solutions. And you'll be each given an A1 sheet of paper that Tyne is holding. And so as we progress through the sessions, we would like you to add to this sheet and make connections. So just to bear in mind that there are 3 sections, which you can see here on this next slide, but it's the idea is that these shouldn't be seen as linear. You could start with any one of these 3 topics as they are interlinked. So just to give you an overview of the structure, the session is divided into 3 sections, these 3 areas that I have just described, and each one will last about 30 minutes in terms of your activity. And between each session, we would like 1 or 2 groups to discuss and share with everybody anything that you've spoken about, to share ideas so we can all benefit from the conversations. And so this will be in 3 blocks. And then we want some time at the end, about half an hour maximum, to have a final discussion and maybe a bit of a debate between us in terms of the choices we've made throughout this process. So the scenario that we are giving to you, and bear in mind on each of your tables, this will be printed. But just to go through it, the scenario is that we want you to propose a housing scheme that is bottom-up, collaborative. And in this hypothetical situation, the council have a plot of land which is outlined in red in this 3D drawing. And it's a working class neighbourhood that is going to be developed into a new housing scheme. And we want this, or the council would like this master plan to be sustainable in line with the climate goals at the moment. And it should include housing units, but sustainable in many senses. So the site is composed of different plots. So for example, there are 2 existing residential buildings from the 1970s where 40 low-income families are currently living. There is an existing warehouse that has cultural value. There are several empty pieces of land as well, or infill sites. And existing residents, just in terms of what's happening at the moment in this scenario, the existing residents are complaining about gentrification, which has already started in the adjacent blocks and neighbourhoods. And previous top-down attempts to redevelop the neighbourhood has resulted in some residents' distrust to the local government. And so some of the current residents may oppose some of the schemes that you proposed during this session, so please bear this in mind. And the council has reserved funds for the first development stage, but calls for a long-term financially viable housing scheme. And lastly, progressive political parties, NGOs and activists are sceptical about the long-term commitment to social and environmental goals. So as you can see, it's a holistic problem, and we want you to explore this in all the 3 senses that we have outlined. And just to help you imagine the existing site and what you may do with it, we've provided some photos. This will also be on your tables. So the first 2 images of the existing warehouse, there is a place of worship, there is a public space, some greenery and some open areas, and empty plots that could be developed. So, and an aerial view there. And so now that you have this scenario in mind, and considering these 3 areas we want you to talk about, there are some questions that can help get you thinking. So how will you address the regeneration of the neighbourhood, for example? And how will you create a cohesive neighbourhood? And will there be a need to relocate the existing residents? How will this be designed towards decarbonisation and meeting climate targets? How will you avoid gentrification in the area? And lastly, how can you propose something that is actually financially viable as well? So just to give a bit more information about the aims, in the first session, community participation, you are to envision an ideal neighbourhood, and it is necessary to design with rather than for the community. So to warm up the workshop, you're going to explore the key considerations in organising a participatory process. So who participates, how, for how long, and where, for example. And so you should consider the social mix, different cultural, ethnic, and economic backgrounds, household mix, single parents, different family arrangements, various religious groups and places of worship in the area, and any at-risk groups, homelessness, people at risk to homelessness, and refugees. And then the second session, in the design, planning and building section, we're going to lead a design session to develop a proposal for the neighbourhood scheme. So really for you to envisage what this would look like and the materiality and potentially some of the details if you're able to do so. So the different methods of construction, processes, materials and other aspects to the design, planning and building. And so we aim for you by the end of this session to be better equipped with the tools for you to be able to create a sustainable housing development that responds to the environmental, economic, social and culture and heritage aspects of the site. And then lastly, in the policy and finance section, we want you to embed the social and environmental objectives in long-term policies and finance models by proposing practical instruments that could be implemented at the neighbourhood or municipality scale. So by the end of the session, you'll have a better understanding of how housing policy could potentially anchor fundamental environmental, economic, social and cultural values. Again, so looking at sustainability from a holistic point of view. And so lastly, that piece of paper that Tyne was holding up, we really want you to be active with this and to be adding to it throughout the session. And so to be adding keywords and to really think about what you put down and any connections amongst the words within that session, but then start to connect it with the other two areas as we go along. So now I'm just going to hand over to Zoe, who will explain how we will split into these groups.